there are two challenges that entrepreneurs face when it comes to accessing funding. The first is not knowing where to go. So often, people think that funding can only be found within a conventional or a commercial bank. And yet there are multiple avenues for raising capital, from private equity to development finance institutions to venture capital. There are many different types of models that are suitable for many different types of businesses. However, people don't know which door to knock on, and sometimes knock on the wrong door. The second is, once you've experienced rejection or failure in trying to raise capital the first time, there's often a reluctance to go back. Sometimes an entrepreneur is afraid of asking for that feedback, which is so critical to improving how you've pitched for that funding in the first place. And the third is a general lack of preparation. You know, when you're involved in your business, you know it inside out. You live and you breathe it. It's your dream, it's your vision. And often entrepreneurs have undertaken tremendous risk to launch their businesses and to run them. However, when you're talking to someone outside of that business with a view of raising capital, you need to speak their language. You need to know what it is that moves them into a situation where they're more likely to invest in you. So often there's this massive information or knowledge gap when an entrepreneur just doesn't know what it is that an investor or a financier is looking for when it comes to making an investment. A lack of adequate preparation. In the same way that you prepare for writing an exam or writing a big test is the exact same way you need to approach accessing capital. You need to ask yourself, who am I going to see? What have they said on their website through other publicly available sources of information? What have they said about their investment model? What are the types of businesses they generally like to invest in? What are the things that are critical to them putting money to work, whether in you or another business? And how can you then convey your message in a way that you talk to their most important priorities? That takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of planning. It takes crafting a really good business proposition to show that of all the people in the country or in the world where they could take that little bit of funding, you are their number one candidate. And that process requires a lot of commitment, requires research, requires talking to people in your world or accessing mentorship or any kind of help to help you craft the right message. That's what I believe some entrepreneurs don't do very well. I believe that there's sometimes a fear. There's a fear of, one, am I good enough to access that funding? Am I going to make it? Will someone like my business? Will someone believe enough in my dream? Sometimes there's a fear that I'm going to be rejected anyway. Why should I even go and do the work? And I think that this is where the Mara platform becomes pretty powerful, this mentorship platform. Because what it does is it allows entrepreneurs to develop really meaningful relationships with people who are on the other side, people who are investors, people who are in banking, people who work for development funding organizations, to ask for the help, to seek the guidance of how to build up their confidence, build up their skills, to have the right conversation when asking for capital. So mentorship has a crucial role to play in helping to address that lack of confidence and that fear of rejection, and an increase in the success rate of entrepreneurs that are accessing funding, particularly those accessing it for the first time. My short answer is it depends on the entrepreneur. There are people who are trying to access capital that have a very clear answer in their minds of how to put that capital to work effectively in their business. There are other people who don't quite know how that money is going to unlock growth or unlock value in their business, and believe that just receiving that money on its own is going to fix everything. And often it doesn't. I'll give you an example. I recently participated in an investor forum that took 10 women entrepreneurs from across sub-Saharan Africa and put them into a room to pitch for capital for their business in a room of probably 10 to 15 different types of investors. Consistently, what I learned from that experience is 7 to 8 out of 10 of those women needed more than just capital. They needed expertise on how to grow their businesses, how to make their businesses more resilient to competition, more resilient to all sorts of external market shocks. They needed access to markets. They needed technical expertise. And more importantly, they needed help on how to build stronger teams that had a really nice balance of skills to take their businesses to the next level. The capital question, which they believed was all important, was actually, I believe, the least important. There were other areas of building the business that needed to be prioritized. And as I sat in that room listening to story after story, I realized that if the woman had received business development support, more active, more hands-on coaching, and perhaps even that strategic mentorship, they would have had a much better success rate of raising capital. However, the focus was on how can I get my money on the cash? Unfortunately, that's often not the most important question. The most important question is, what's working in my business? What isn't working in my business? How can I fix it? How can I make it better? How can I grow more effectively? And once you can answer those questions, it becomes a natural course for you to then be able to access the capital you need to take your business to where you want it to go. That's an interesting question, and I'd like to take two approaches to answering it. The first is, are we seeing more women entrepreneurs? My hand-on-heart belief is yes. Women are being pushed into the entrepreneurial space for a number of factors. Some have just been involved in corporate settings and have decided, I think I can do this for myself. Others, it's due to family or other considerations. But we're seeing women that are grasping entrepreneurial opportunities, and that's exciting. In terms of the corporate sector, seeing the visibility of women CEOs, women who are senior executives, there's still a lot of work to be done. As new faces, new voices, we're primarily interested in the transformation of financial services as a sector. And what does that mean? Having more women in leadership positions across financial services. That's really important to us. It's definitely still male-dominated. If you look at a number of institutions, and not just in South Africa or in other parts of the continent, but around the world, we're seeing the domination of men within the sector, within the key decision-making positions. And that is unfortunate and is something that we as a generation of young women need to change. There's some very interesting work that talks about gender stereotypes and gender perception. And it's work that has played such a crucial role in my own career, is you've got to believe that you're worthy to be in the room and worthy enough, as Sheryl Sandberg puts it, to sit at the table. You've got to believe that any career is viable for you. If you have a dream, you need to believe that you can realize it. Unfortunately, when you see few people that sit at the table, few people in the organizations or the sectors that you want to be a part of that look like you, that come from where you come from, that can be a bit of a confidence killer. And that's what we're seeing, is there are young women who might have the dream of running their own banks, of starting their own banks, of starting their own investment firms, of running their own investment firms, that aren't seeing enough women who are doing those things, and then are saying to themselves, but maybe this isn't the place for me.